Okay, welcome to the Finance and Audit Commission, October 16th regular meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with Finance and Audit Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in the downtown conference room and participating remotely. I would like to introduce staff and Finance and Audit Commission members present: Colin Albright, Brian Altman, David Emery, Jackson Garten, Vamsi Belakapudi, and staff present include Administrative Services Director Brittany Mello, Finance and Budget Manager Jared Hansen, Senior Accountant Ying Chen, and Management Analyst Adrian Patino. Adrian, would you please provide instructions to the Finance and Audit Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Right, certainly. Thank you, Vice Chair Milan and the members of the Finance and Audit Commission. Welcome everyone to the October 16th regular meeting of the Finance and Audit Commission, and thank you for attending. Staff will engage in webcams and microphones to make presentations and to respond to members of the Finance and Audit Commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment on an item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, virtual participants will engage in the raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen. If you are calling in from a landline or from a cell phone, you'll press *9. And if you're in person, you'll complete a speaker card over at that table and return that to me. That concludes the instructions. I return the meeting to the chair.
Okay, under public comment, the public may address the Finance and Audit Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the advisory body cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment, other than to provide general information.
If you would like to provide a general public comment, if you are engaged or logged in virtually, please engage the raise hand feature now at the bottom of the screen. If you're dialing in from a cell phone or from a landline, please press *9. And if you're in person, please complete a speaker card and return that to me. And I'm seeing no requests for general public comment, so you may continue.
Okay. Under the consent calendar, the Finance and Audit Commission may take action to approve routine business items in one motion unless a Finance and Audit Commission member, city staff member, or a member of the public requests that an item be discussed or continued to a later date. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
All right, if you would like to provide a public comment on agenda item D1, approve the July 17th and September 11th Finance and Audit Commission meeting minutes. If you are logged in virtually, please engage that raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen. If you are dialing in from a cell phone or from a landline, please press *9. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return that card to me. And I'm seeing no hands or cards. So you may
Okay, our first item is D1, to approve the July 17th and September 11th Finance and Audit Commission meeting minutes.
Right, so a motion to approve the consent calendar to approve the July 17th and September 11th Finance and Audit Commission meeting minutes.
I submit a motion to approve protest minutes.
I second the motion. And all in favor? And the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, on to regular business. Under regular business, the Finance and Audit Commission considers a recommendation from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Finance and Audit Commission approval. Our first regular business item is to review the investment portfolio reports for September 30th and recommend receipt by City Council.
Right, so we have the latest installment of the city's investment portfolio reports for the period ended September 30th, 2025. Some highlights from this latest quarter. The city's fair market value of its total portfolio was about $211 million, which is about $1.3 million higher than the amortized cost, which represents an unrealized gain of $1.3 million. The total portfolio yielded about 4.04% for the total portfolio, which includes the assets under management by Insight, as well as the portion of the city's investments that are in LAIF, the local agency investment fund. And the weighted average maturity of the city's portfolio was about 2.25 years. The ESG ratings of the portfolio over the period improved slightly from 3.06 to 3.02. As a reminder, the scale goes from 1 to 5, with 1 being the best investment and 3 representing the average. So the city's investments are around the average. Some of the factors influencing the city's investment portfolio at the time include Federal Reserve monetary policy, labor market conditions, inflation, and tariff policies. The labor market conditions were sort of the main driver between the recent rate cut by the Federal Reserve. They cut the rates by about 25 basis points, which represents the first rate cut since December of 2024, citing slower job growth, higher unemployment, which contributes to a greater kind of downside risk in the employment and labor market, which was the main driver for their decision to cut rates. That concludes my brief presentation, and I'll return the meeting to the chair.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Any clarifying questions from the Finance and Audit Commission before taking public comment? All right, Adrian, do we have any public comment?
Right, if you would like to provide a public comment on agenda item E1, if you are logged in virtually, please engage that raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen. If you are dialed in from a cell phone or from a landline, please press *9. And if you're in person, please complete a speaker card and return that card to me. And I'm seeing no requests for hands or cards, so you may continue.
Okay, now I'll open for Finance and Audit Commission discussion.
I have a question, I guess, just my own education. So the $200 million in investment account, what's it for? I'm just, maybe a very dumb question. What triggers it? Yeah, is it, do we dip into it every now and again for budgetary purposes? Does it just stay there forever? I just want to get a quick sense of how to think about this in terms of the overall amendment of our budget.
We're looking at the general cash flow. We don't need this as operating cash flow, so that's why we're throwing it into the investment portfolio and why it stays there. We generally invest long term, so we don't really touch that or pull anything out. If we did, we would start with LAIF first, because that's the most liquid and that's the easiest one to get there or to get back. And then we would go to some of the other categories if we needed some upfront cash flow. We do have about 30 million-ish in the regular operating checking account that just keeps basically rolling over on a basis. Most of this is set aside or invested, if you want to say, first of all, to provide us with a little bit of interest income and earnings, but also to help with the capital planning and a lot of the CIP projects that need the upfront cash flow. So we keep this on hand to be able to fund that. And then the other piece of that is also there's some cash requirements for the bonds, and we have that certain amount of cash on hand at all times in order to meet our requirements.
When do we ever pull out of it? To use, pull money out to use?
When
We haven't in the time that I've been here, so I think it would just require the specific circumstances. Maybe the city council wanted to approve a large capital investment And wanted to draw down those funds, but it would be unusual.
Like a green line.
Yes.
Something the city council has direct control over the use of that money. It's discretionary.
This is not discretionary money. This is just the cash that we have on hand. And so this is the excess, basically excess cash, which sounds weird to say excess cash, but
Yeah,
not really excess cash because it's all set aside for a specific purpose. But because we get tax revenue in annually, that inflows and then the outflows that we have don't require us to touch the investment portfolio at this particular point in time.
And not all of it's available at once. So we have the funds, locked into different terms. And as that item comes to term, if we were to say, hey, Insight Investments, our consultant, we actually think we're gonna need a little more cash flow in the coming quarter. Don't reinvest that and buy a new item. We're gonna take that back into our checking account because we need it. If we were to need all that money right away or something, the city would likely lose money because we're not reaching the maturity of the item. So we rarely, that would be unlikely to happen because it's our job to protect the taxpayer money.
what percentage of the cash flow out of this is in the budget? What percentage comes from the budget, goes to the budget from? Just roughly, is it
We
single
budget,
digits or?
we budget about 1.5 million in interest income for the year. So we kind of
Out of-
anticipate
How much?
out of a 120
20?
something,
Yeah.
right around there, 120-ish. Yeah.
Represents 1 to 2%.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very small portion.
You said it was from like tax revenue, so any breakdown what that looks like? Is it property
This has been
taxes? Is it-
accumulated over,
Well, no, I mean, just
yeah.
yearly, I'm not saying for the history of this.
Yeah, if you look at the annual financial report, you'll, the biggest one is property taxes. That's our number one revenue source. TOT's number two, which is the transient occupancy tax or the hotel tax.
Yeah.
And then the third one is sales tax. Those are our three top revenue sources. Those and they've shifted over the years. TOT's gradually gone up, sales tax kind of gone down. And then there's charges for services, licenses and permits, different things like that. But those are the main three categories that we get the most revenue from, with property tax being the number one.
But generally, when we're building the budget, we're building it for the revenues coming in that year and going out that year to build a balanced budget.
So this makes about 4% roughly, which is about $8 million a year, something like that. Something like that. So, look, it's math.
Yeah.
So portion of that 8 million is reinvested. And then a portion goes into the budget, roughly 50-50. It's those or 40-60, something like that, right?
Yeah.
2-3 million out of the 8 comes back to the city, and the rest goes back into the investment.
Yeah,
So
and we don't really.
no, the numbers probably aren't right, but something like that, right?
Yeah, we don't since we don't really touch the money that's sitting there. It's just all invested. Like, we don't send money to Insight. They don't send money to us. We just leave it there. It gets invested. It gets reinvested. So we have enough working cash.
Yeah, but you pull out if a portion of the what you've earned and put it into the city budget.
Correct.
And that amount is, how's that decided?
It's based on the historical earnings that the interest is gained. So this year we actually did a little bit better than the 1.5. Final numbers aren't yet determined, but I want to say it was like 2.5, so about $1 million better than we had anticipated, based on the historical average over the past 4 or 5 years. And that's what we base it on, and then based it on as well. We look at the investment portfolio and see if there's any projection as to what type of returns we provide for us.
So during the COVID years, it was
Different for sure.
pitiful.
And luckily, because a lot of ours are invested in government agencies, and government bonds, those have had really stellar returns during the COVID years. And the corporate had not, and now it's kind of switched around. So we are slowly transitioning from having everything in government to more corporate, but again, we have a limitation on how much we can invest in corporate bonds, so we still try to maintain that percentage or that limit, so that we're not
It's around
overfunding
20%.
something, yeah.
Say it was a massive something, earthquake or something. That money could be used, right, if the council decided.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
That's, sorry, that would be the trigger, something like that would trigger it, right? Otherwise, it's the investment cushion.
yes.
And we do have the emergency contingency reserve that
Which is
might
30
also
million.
be used for something like that.
Mhm.
And in table 2, the cash line, is that expected kind of annual variance that happens quarter by quarter, or was that a strategic shift to pull it from?
That is the cash balance in the investment portfolio
Oh,
itself.
yeah.
So this
Right,
is
right.
not like our checking.
Oh, no,
account.
I understand. I just see that.
So what
the
that
last
number
2 quarters.
represents is as the investments mature, they get sold. And so then the cash sits and accumulates until there's enough to purchase the
Oh,
next
okay. So we
security
had like
or
a
the next
bunch-
secure item. So
A
that
bunch
just,
maturing and
yeah, that,
in the March and June
exactly.
buckets, yeah.
So yeah, those two had big maturity dates where,
Okay.
you know, the December one did not have much that was
Thank you.
mature.
Yeah, the government job.
That all the things we take into account when we plan for it, so yes. And thankfully, Insight is very good about providing, I think they provide weekly updates or daily update. I don't know, I think I get like 20 emails from them all the time, every month, and I'm like, okay, another market update on something, so they're very good about sending information out to us and providing us those updates, as well as communicating with us if there's something that's going to be maturing or maturing in the future, or they find something that they think is a better investment that might potentially raise our ESG score or provide us a better.
Average maturity date, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Exactly. And we are working as well with Insight to increase the portfolio, the maturity dates, and to make that duration. Thank you. Thank you. Like, the name was not thinking in my head there, but yes.
Duration's good.
Working on the duration, yeah. So we are working on to increase that. We've gone a little bit in the past shorter duration simply because of COVID and the lingering effects of that, and then the inflation and all the fun stuff that's happened. And we're still cautious, so, and they're very cautious as well, but still trying to maximize by increasing that maturity date, the duration.
Setting aside the compounding of the earnings and all that, this money was originally funded by city, the community, right? In terms of their taxes and stuff, got funneled to initialize this, right? And so over the years, it's grown. Like 10 years ago, how big was this number? Just ballpark. We'll call it whatever is easy. Was it half that, or
Not sure how quickly.
at 4%? It's going to be 10 years ago. It's going to be like, but it's like over time, the money to fund this came from taxes on the community, right? Now, tax money is not going into it. Is that correct?
We don't have any specific dollar amounts that's being sent to
So they're
Insight.
making 4%, so you say, well, yeah, it's cool, right?
Exactly. Mhm.
But at some point in time, you see what I'm trying to get at, it's like, well, how much was the county, the community's initial investment into this thing? How much tax money has gone into this? Or is it earned 4% for the last 30 years? And if it's done that, then
Which is
should have
Probably
invested.
pretty much what is happening. I'm looking back real quick to see if I can find something
Different,
on
Yeah,
that.
you see what I'm trying to get at? It's like,
Yeah,
You want like a New York Times retirement calculator for a memo.
At what point do we not have to keep putting money in?
well, or just, if the average citizen would say, geez, that's a hell of a lot of money. Where'd that come from? And you can say, well, it came from you, right? And they said, well, if it came from me, I want to use it. Well,
Tax rebate,
it's like, fix traffic or, dig a tunnel under the railway or something, right? I think the community would, because that's 150% of the budget, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
That, my math is crappy, but something like that. It's at
Pretty
least,
close. Mhm.
yeah.
And we do have an annual spending limit that we would need to adhere to. We wouldn't be able to use all of this money at once. It wouldn't be available at once, and we wouldn't
Sure.
legally be able to spend it.
Because of the way the investments are, but yeah, the terms and stuff, right?
And also the GAN appropriation limit. Which maybe Jared can better find.
Yeah, so there's a bill that went before the state back in 80 something that said governments can only spend up to a certain amount of their population or a certain amount of their budget. And they established a base year, and then that is then increased by the growth in population and the growth in taxes for the year. And that limit then becomes the maximum that we can spend in any one particular fiscal year.
And are we already at that level?
We're below the,
Yeah.
which is a good place to be. You don't want to be right at the limit, and then you're really having to look at your services and your spending and make cuts to stay below the limit.
So I'm just looking at I'm just looking at the prior financial report from fiscal year ending 2010.
Yeah.
And just looking at that, it looks like the total cash and investments we had was about 135 million. So I mean,
4%, assuming 4% roughly, it's.
Yeah. and I mean that's just a rough guess. Doing math off the top of my head, which always dangerous things. So.
Thank you.
And so right now, does the city council then take 1.5 million from this in the budget every year? Has there ever been discussion to increase that, or does it come up in annual budget discussions about whether they should go from 1.5 to, even if it's not a big outlay, just 2.5 or 3? Is that, I can imagine there would be a push to do that from some folks to get money.
We do plan and look at that number every year as we're planning the budget. So we do use that number and increase it. We did increase it. I think this year we increased it from 1.5 to I want to say 1.7, 1.8, somewhere around there. But that's probably again on the lower end, which is always better to budget revenues lower than not have it come to fruition. So we do have some of that increase in this year. There hasn't been any discussion really as to increasing that number by city council. We haven't really needed to. I want to say fine tooth comb into that level of detail specifically.
I thought there were some discussions about taking out of the reserve though, that over the next 3 or 4 years, if you draw the curve, that the reserve would be affected.
Yes.
Which I think it was on hand cash or. So if you. And that's 30 million, right?
And that's different a little bit because that's talking about fund balance, or they're basically your retained earnings. If you think of it that way, that's the retained earnings in the business. And we're not a business, so we call it fund balance. That's just the general fund, and that's one slice of the pie, but there's another 25, 30 funds that we have to deal with as well, which includes the capital improvement. It includes the below market rate housing. It includes all the different utility funds as well, the water, the solid waste. All the internal service funds and the fiduciary fund as well. So all of those funds are what make up this total investment number here. So when we say the general fund itself is going to have a reserve that falls or that declines over the next few years, we're not looking at the actual cash balance. We're saying based on what we budget and what's coming in for the budget, our expenses are growing at a faster rate than the revenues are coming in.
Yeah, it's retained earnings. is
Yeah.
how it is, effectively.
Exactly. So what's essentially happening is all those retained earnings are basically
Right,
going
yeah.
down to, and we're spending all the retained earnings instead of keeping them on hand.
As a whole, yeah.
Where
And
this
it
is
works
just
for-
cash.
Well, we got Springline, you got 80 Willow, you've got, parking lots, so there's gonna be a lot of need
Yes.
for increased or improved services.
And the reserves are specific percentages of the general fund.
It's controlled.
So they're tied to
It's controlled by the county or state or something as well, right? There's some.
one. The reserve percentages are set by city council policy.
Cities is like-
Mhm.
And like 15 to 20% and then 20 to 25% for the two buckets plus the pension one that we have that we set aside for the additional payment that we make every year. Mhm.
I remember there was discussion once, I think it's related to what you were talking about when we were doing CIP budget planning of moving some money over, and there were two options given. One that was gonna like deplete it in 3 years and one that wasn't. And then there was also a like emergency reserve fund, I think, that also had two options. And if I'm remembering right, council chose the options that depleted them faster, but there was some assumption that it would be fine. How does that relate to this, or like, how does that relate to what you just explained to us?
So they're completely unrelated, but they are related. So this is talking about cash and what cash you have on hand. So if you think about it, if you're planning like your mortgage, you can go out and get a mortgage for, $100 million and then you won't send out every year your mortgage payment, right? And that's the amount you plan to send out. But we look at the total mortgage and say, that's the amount that we have to spend in 1 year, and that's the amount going out the door. And that's what we're budgeting for, is that full mortgage, 100 million, not the specific individual cash that's actually going out the door. So two different types of lenses that we're basically using in order to focus on what's happening with the finances of the city. So this is looking at strictly the cash side and saying, how much cash do we have? How much have we accumulated? What do we have that we can take right now and pay off if we had to pay all of our liabilities, if we had to pay everything off, what would that, how much do we have available? Versus looking and saying, okay, well, now we've said that we have this, 100 million mortgage that we've already budgeted that's gone out the door. We paid it off in the budget. So that's in our retained earnings per se. And then that amount is completely different. So different lens that we're looking at. So it's related, but not related. If that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense.
Well, how much debt does the city carry?
We have
Roughly.
a very small,
Yeah, it's like 106 million as of last year. right?
yeah,
106 million
106 million.
in non-current liabilities. I assume that includes pensions and settlement liabilities and everything else we're tied to.
The city carries $160 million in debt.
there's the bonds. So we have two current bond issues. We have the 2022 general obligation bonds, and then you have the 2019 general obligation bonds as well. And then the successor agency has their 2016 refinancing obligation, and that's that one is around 20 million itself, just in and of itself. That one's about 20 million. But the rest of the long-term debt that we have, about 27 million in the bond debt, and then Our pension liability is our largest one, and that runs us about 78 million.
Is it fair to say last year we were cash flow break even? It looks like there's a change in that position of 27 million. And then capital assets increased by roughly 27 million.
That's probably fair to say, yes. Let me pull up.
But the other way I think about the balance, if it was 100 million 15 years ago, it's grown by about 5% over the term, which means if you assume a coupon rate of 3%, the city essentially paid in 2% per year. And then we have capital assets, roughly like 380 million. So if you assume 20-year depreciation, you're gonna pay 5% of that every year just for maintenance. And that means there's about 10 years of maintenance CapEx. If all the receipts went away, the rainy day fund covers Menlo Park for 10 years.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because our total liabilities, 109 million is what we were last fiscal year, at the end of the fiscal year. 144, sorry, 144, sorry, total liabilities. 400 million of it, 400 million of the city's assets are tied up in capital assets as well. So I mean, that's all the infrastructure, that's all the roads, the streets, the parks, the water lines, all the storm drains, like all of that stuff, the water towers, the storage facilities, the bayfront landfill. I don't want to even try to say the word leachate or whatever they call that, leachate system. Yes, there you go, thank you. So we have all those as well, so that ties up most of what, when you look at the financial statements, that ties up most of our fund balance or our not reserved, retained earnings. It is based on all those capital assets. And that's the largest share by far of what we have.
And just to note that our overall finances, we're AAA rated, so we're doing the best we can do, really, with the ratios that we have. We don't, I know 100, something million sounds like a lot of debt, but compared to many agencies, it's not.
Okay, Adrian, do we have a motion?
what's the average coupon rate? And who has discretion on what duration we should target? The city, right?
That is based on the investment policy. As far as what the duration is and where we target with that. I think that the goal is to have it 5 year
It's a 5-year max.
max.
And then Insight moves the needle depending on their market analysis. So we've been at our goal of
Who approves that decision if they say it's time to push out or pull in?
That's usually done through the city management team and through us. So
It's collaborative.
very much collaborative.
So all of their investment, purchases, it's all recommendations that we review together to understand it before they proceed.
And I don't know on the coupon rates exactly what we have. I don't think I have that. Right.
So it's a 4% average yield.
Yes.
Just close to it.
Somewhat, yeah, right around there, around 4%.
And one of our intentions.
You've got to it, so. Same time I got to it. The lake gives us about a, well, this past quarter was about 4.2 for LAVE versus 4.04 for the securities portfolio, so, but they're also focused on very different types of investments, so. That quite smaller amount in LAVE, however, maybe a little bit more this past quarter, but that has historically been much less than our security portfolios this return. And our portfolio in of itself is doing much better than the 2-year treasury note, which is what we compare against, which that one only was a yield of 1.8%. So we're doing better than we just invested in treasury notes.
But taking on extra term and credit risk, right? I mean, the treasury securities is 3.7, which tells us we're not at the 2-year, we're at a 5.
Yeah, we're about at 2.25 right now total.
Anything more from the team? Do we have a motion on this one?
So motion to recommend receipt of the investment portfolio reports for September 30th by city council.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? And the motion passes unanimously.
All right, on to our last regular business item to review the approved 2025-2026 work plan and consider forming subcommittees. And Adrian will introduce the item.
So this is the last step in our annual work plan process. So a little bit of kind of a background and refresher on how we got to this point. So the last time that this group met, we put together a recommended work plan that was then brought to the city council on September 30th for consideration, along with all of the other advisory bodies. At that meeting, the city council reviewed the Finance and Audit Commission's proposed work plan and chose to approve it with no changes, no recommendations. So what this group put together is what is our work plan for fiscal year 2025-26. So with that, this is the last step in the process where the commission received what the city council approved, and this gives the commission the opportunity to both review current subcommittees, consider adding or removing members from those subcommittees, or dissolving them, or the formation of new subcommittees to support the approved work plan goals. So as a reminder of what this commission put together for their work plan, we have 9 goals. Number 1 being conducting annual review of the city's investment policy. 2, reviewing the scope and process of the audit for fiscal year 2024-25 with the city's auditor. 3, review quarterly performance of the city's investment portfolio. 4, review the annual independent auditor's report. 5, review the annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR. 6, Open Gov transparency portal improvements and community training. Number 7, encourage and facilitate robust public comment and participation at commission meetings. Number 8, foster a public meeting environment inclusive of all members of the diverse Menlo Park community. And 9, support the filling of openings on the commission and the effective onboarding of new commissioners. So to summarize the active subcommittees and their appointments, currently There is the Open Gov Transparency Portal Subcommittee, which is currently consisting of just Chair Jayanta Day. And then we have the Investment Portfolio Reporting Subcommittee, which is consisting of Commissioners Albright and Gard. As a kind of reminder on subcommittees and the sort of structure around them, they must contain 3 or fewer members of the commission so as to not accidentally create a quorum outside of official meetings. And they are designed to kind of focus on specific work plan goals and create the kind of structure for focused work outside of commission meetings to kind of advance some of these goals as the commission sees fit. So with that, I will return the meeting to the chair.
Okay, are there any clarifying questions from the commission before public comment? Okay, do we have any public comment? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just had one of the subcommittees. Is that sufficient? Or how do you get more people if needed on the subcommittee? Because how can you have a subcommittee of one? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so there is no minimum requirement for subcommittee members. There must be 3 or fewer, and they theoretically could consist of one. For that,
I think
If that-
someone else was with him.
but yes, previously this commission or this subcommittee consisted of 3 members, 2 of which turned out. So now that leaves just 1 current member on that subcommittee. But most frequently, subcommittees are typically consisting 2 to 3 commissioners.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
Right, if you would like to provide public comment on agenda item E2, review the approved 2025-26 work plan and consider forming subcommittees. If you are logged in virtually, please engage the raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen. If you are dialed in from a cell phone or from a landline, please press *9 now. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return that to me. I'm seeing no request for public comment, so you may continue.
Okay, I'll now open for commission discussion on this item. I guess maybe the first question is, do we think these are the right subcommittees to keep? And then if they are the right ones, do we have the right people on them?
I guess I had a question on the investment policy subcommittee. What was the purpose of that? I just make sure.
Specifically, I think Jackson and I felt the benchmark could be improved. Is the exactly, yeah, a couple of other minor points. Where is Jackson? We heard from him.
I think I heard from him, not this meeting, but the previous one that he was not able to attend.
So we have some thoughts. We just need to put it on paper.
Should we keep that subcommittee going for?
There's no harm in it either way. I mean, as a general question, right, like as commissioners, we have some leeway to form ad hoc or to bring things to the table of our own initiative, right? Or does it always define within subcommittee?
I kind of like that approach better. I think we can do ad hoc based on what's presented to us. We could spin off, a couple of, was that what you mean? Like, yeah. We could spin, say, something comes up next couple meetings or something. Can we do that, or do we have to?
So to be in compliance with the Brown Act, we would need to add something to the agenda to let the community know what you would be discussing. So if, let's say you don't want to have a subcommittee and you want to instead decide every meeting you're gonna tackle a different goal, and just spend, an hour or two doing that, we would just need to know, and normally, the chair would, determines the agenda, so the commissioner could reach out to the chair to make a recommendation for what topic would be discussed at the next meeting. So it could be flexible, but not completely ad hoc. We would need to be able to post it.
Whereas I think right now, the way we currently structure the agenda, we have like a standing committee or subcommittee report item, which allows any previously formed subcommittee to provide any updates or present an item at that space that is kind of always agendized. So that does kind of provide a little bit of flexibility once the subcommittees have been formed. As always, if there is like a more kind of formal report with materials that a subcommittee has put together and would like to share in advance, we can include that as part of the agenda. So like under that category on the agenda, we would have, for example, presentation from the OpenGov subcommittee, for example. We could attach whatever has been put together.
Okay, and what has been the purpose of the OpenGov subcommittee so far?
The OpenGov subcommittee has been around for a few iterations, and they've made at different points, the different members have made different recommendations to improve how the public might interact with OpenGov, and just the general understanding, ease of access, recommendations like that. Since that is our main, budget transparency tool, it's just helping the community understand that.
Gotcha. And you've been around and seen that subcommittee report back, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone else may. Yeah. Do you think we should keep that?
The OpenGov. Actually, no, I hadn't seen that subcommittee specifically before.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, do we strike them all now and a future date discuss? I suppose we'd have to put on the agenda discussion of reinstatement of subcommittees or something. So
We would probably have the same agenda item as we have tonight, consider forming subcommittees. And we can certainly plan to put that on next time if you want, more time to consider and determine your path forward.
Yeah, I guess one thought, because we did kind of agree a work plan with those line items.
Right.
And one of them is the open government. So I think we talked about it last time and we weren't sure what progress had been made. And I think you did send around, Adrian, a report from 3-4 years ago, I want to say, the last time.
Yeah, it was a report that Jayanta had received from previous members of the subcommittee that he then passed on to me to share with the broader commission.
So even if it's like, for the open government things, I'd have an interest in doing it, even if it's just to say, we spend 6 months on it as a subcommittee, and we come back and say, nothing to see, close it. We've looked at it, we've done it, or we say, actually, no, there is something to do. So maybe I'd be happy to kind of like jump onto that subcommittee, maybe with Giants and somebody else. But with a view to not try to spin it on forever, but to say, is there something worth doing? Yes. If not, come back. Next meeting, we say, we looked at it, nothing else to do, close it. That'd be fine.
Yeah, it does feel like there's maybe need for a subcommittee or something that just helps people understand the budget better, like helps the general, average Menlo Park resident kind of get all the pieces. Would that be this subcommittee, you think? Because if OpenGov Transparency Portal is the spot for understanding, then I guess it would be this one. Yeah, that I would be happy to help with that. It does seem like a little bit of a black box that might be worth exploring.
Yeah, I think of it less as open gov, more we're doing a good job of helping the community understand the budget. We use OpenGov. Is there something we can improve with OpenGov? Is there something else we should be doing? I think that'd be a good thing to think of.
So should that be the subcommittee name or does the name matter? It probably doesn't matter.
I think it's meant to just be an ease of reference to the work plan, but
Yeah, what was the work plan
Yeah.
goal there?
Number
Prosperity
6.
Closing and community training, interesting, okay. And it's
But
sort of
seven-
related to
seven
7,
Also relates, right? Which is
Yeah.
getting technical.
yeah, it's kind of a merge of 6 and 7, yeah. Maybe just merge them, OpenGov transparency portal, improvements and community engagement. But if anyone else would want to be on that subcommittee, do you
Sure,
I don't need to be on it.
I don't know what's entailed.
Are you gonna stay on the other one or you want to solve that?
I'm flexible, I'm happy to stay. In this discussion last year, we all kind of looked at the work plan goals and divvied ourselves up so that there's one on each one.
Oh,
Since you're-
that would put you 3 on that one, I think, but that's all right. Or we send someone too.
I mean, I guess we could form a subcommittee if we think there are tangible things to review, as you were saying, on specific points. Some of those points don't need a subcommittee, like onboarding of new commissioners sort of happens naturally, right? So yeah, I think that's how we can consider it.
So can I suggest, it sounds like the OpenGov, or whether it's budget transparency, I think it's subcommittee work, the work there with 3 folks. I'd be happy to be on it. I don't know if with Jared was absent, I assume he did you, I don't know. But I can propose that at least.
Oh, what either you guys want to be on it? What would you want to be on it? Otherwise, I'm happy to, but would you want to be on?
Sure, why not? We'll see if we need to keep it open.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it'd be like with any other subcommittees.
Yeah.
But doing. Did you go back to the work plan?
Yeah, so I think that it seems like when we made the work plan, we thought 1 through 5 were kind of, tasks. So that probably makes sense that they don't need a subcommittee. And then 6 and 7, I think we've covered with the proposed subcommittee. So it seems like the only remaining question would be if we keep yours open or not.
Close if you'd like, yeah.
Alright, so it'll be a one subcommittee.
But it's work, I think you need something to work, it's got the right plan.
Yeah, I just need to get a hold of Jackson.
Just keep it over, you got 3 more months, 1 more meeting and then
Sure.
report back. If you think it's worth it, for something.
Yeah, why not?
Right. Okay, any other subcommittee thoughts before we move on? Okay, do we have a motion for this one?
Yeah, so we just kind of summarize to make sure I didn't miss any of the commission's thoughts. So first one is we're keeping the investment subcommittee as currently constructed, so that does not require any action. And then for the OpenGov transparency portal, we are adding commissioners Velagapudi and Commissioner Embry to join Chair Gianta Day in that subcommittee. That's correct.
And if I may, was there the addition of the wording, OpenGov transparency portal and community engagement?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So,
Okay, do you have a motion and a second?
motion to revise the OpenGov transparency portal subcommittee name to include community engagement and to appoint Commissioner Velagapudi and Emery to the subcommittee.
I'll propose that motion. Sure, second.
All right, and all in favor? And the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, excellent. Are there any subcommittee reports? I doubt that there are. But we gotta ask. Okay, sounds like no. Moving on to informational items. Under informational items, the city staff provides updates on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. Adrian, do you have any public comment?
Right, if you would like to provide a public comment on our informational agenda items G1 or G2, if you are logged in virtually, please engage that raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen. If you are dialing in from a cell phone or from a landline, please press *9. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return that card to me. I'm seeing no request for public comment.
Okay, our first item G1 is a quarterly update on city grant funding.
So as a reminder to the commission informational items, the commissioners may request to comment or hear from staff on these. Staff can pull an item to present, or it would just go as received. So it depends if the commission has any questions or would like more details on the grant funding summary after that.
Oh, you know what? I have one question on this, and it might relate to your subcommittee. These grants, are the dollar amounts, granted to us, is there somewhere we can see what portion of the total project cost they represent? Or do these grants cover the entirety of the projects they're mapped to?
Many grants have local match components. Generally, when those are required, then we'll go to the city council. Generally requiring a resolution that the city council will, provide that local match before we can accept the grant funding. So it would vary depending on the grant.
Okay. And so if someone were to go to the OpenGov transparency portal and choose one of these line items, they could see maybe the total budget for the line item, and then they could look back at this and see what got granted and do some subtraction themselves, or?
Yeah, for example, you could go to the capital improvement plan, and under the capital improvement plan, pick a specific project that's listed there. Say the Caltrain station. No, that's probably a bad one to pick.
The main library.
The main library roof replacement, because that's the easy one, right? So you can look at the main library roof replacement. You could look at what revenue sources are coming in for that project, what total expenditures they are. But this dollar amount here that's coming from the grant is the total grant awarded. So that may be received over multiple fiscal years. It may be, we aren't going to get that for another 3 years. It just depends on the nature of the grants and what all is happening with those specific grants as well. like the library roof, you'll see the funding period's 22 to 26. So this will be our last fiscal year that we'll have that particular grant. So we have to spend and finish spending the money through that timeframe. Next, I believe.
Is that how they all work? Like use it or lose it, or?
Usually it is if you don't spend it up by the funding period, then you miss out on having that grant. So we were awarded a total of $509,000 for that particular project. That's been ongoing since fiscal 22. So that's been going on for quite some time. I believe that they only had punch list items left on that at the beginning of this fiscal year, and there was very minimal spending planned for the main library roof replacement. And most of that was preparation for the installation of the solar that were put on there. Some of the other ones, like the next one down, the citizens option for public safety or the COPS grant, that's an operational grant that's used that we get every year. So we get 100,000 every year for the COPS program, which goes to our supplemental law enforcement or SLUSA fund. And that's used for specific policing items. So like one of them might be DUI stops in town. And they might set up a DUI station and then check as everybody comes through that DUI station. And that might be specifically what they spend that 100,000 on. That just depends on the particular operational needs or what's happening in there. So there wouldn't be anything for that one that you would necessarily see like a project that would be spent on. But if you looked at like the police department budget, you would see that there was a grant or intergovernmental grant of $100,000 that they received in revenue for the year.
Okay. So how should we as a commission think about reviewing this? Like, I get that it's an informational item, but I assume that we would want to be processing it in some way. How would you guys define that you're hoping we interact with this?
So we've been providing the grant funding summaries for maybe the past year and a half per the commission's request, when we gave a high level update at one meeting saying our total grant funding. They said, okay, that's a large amount of money in total grant funding. We want to see what that's made out of.
Mhm.
And so we've been providing it since then, based on the commission's request. So this item is really for you. So if you have different information that you'd like on this, we're happy to work to provide that. But it's not a requirement, it's just something the commission had previously asked for, and so we've been providing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we can use it most effectively to.
I guess for me, the line items are less important for me, the more that total grant funding item. That's something we, year over year, we kind of rely on. I know it comes in and it's hypothecated different ways. So what is that total amount roughly for the year?
Well, this year, as we reported on in prior meetings, has been a rough grant revenue year. We have had changes. So the biggest example of which was related to our Safer Bay implementation project that was previously, on here. We still have our 3.7 million phase one, but there was another 50-ish, 47-ish million for phase two that FEMA confirmed has been rescinded.
Wow.
So that having this summary and having that reported out, I think was a good use of the commission for awareness. That's a bit unusual, but this does provide us the opportunity to provide updates such as that when there's a changing situation related to a grant or particular revenue.
Yes, changing political environment. I was wondering about any federal random grant funding.
That's how I'd be interested, even just as a member of citizen would be, if we rely on so much every year, next year for some reason it drops. Is that something we should be concerned about, or that's one side of it, and this I think helps with that. But the second part of it was like, and this is a very tough question, like how do we know if we are accessing all the grants we can? I don't know how we assess that. Like, are we doing a good job as Menlo Park in getting access to the various grants? Is there somebody that can say that we are? I don't know how, that's a difficult question, but I don't know if you've thought about it.
Yes, I can confirm our staff actively seek and apply for grants. It is competitive. So most of what you'll see on this list are public works grants. Capital grants tend to be where there is a lot of different funding sources to make improvements in different areas. And so our team is really constantly applying for, but also doing the quarterly reporting and meeting the milestones to keep those grant funds. In general, if you don't meet that milestone, you're at risk of losing it. So it's just as important to be working on the grants we have to ensure we keep those funds while also applying for funds for future projects. Do we have a rough estimate on the total?
Yeah, so the total for the fiscal 25, I don't have the 26. Actually, I do have that. Hang on. Grab that. Fiscal 25, we had a total proposed grants of intergovernmental revenue, I should say, of about 18 million. For this upcoming year, that is roughly 10 million. So, it varies and it's gone up and down from about 6 million to about 20 million. So somewhere in that range every year is what gets budgeted for grants. So if that kind of gives you an idea percentage wise of revenue, what we're looking at for the city, that's what we kind of anticipate. Now, again, this list here will be the entire grant, and we only budget for the specific year that we're in. We don't budget for the whole grant in the same year. So this might, again, not like the library roof, that was over multiple fiscal years. So you only saw 10,000 in one year versus the next year you would have saw, 500,000. So very huge swing in what revenues would have shown up in one year versus the next year, depending on what we anticipate to be spent during that fiscal year.
So in that light, the mechanics that you just went through, talk about the Middle Avenue Caltrain Ped bike. So there's roughly $10-11 million there, but is it there or not there? Is it?
We have been awarded a grant, so the grantor has said, yes, we're going to give you money for it.
When you.
We have to spend the money and then you generally request reimbursement from the grantor for those particular funds. So for that one in particular, the different entities that are there, depending on what their funding requirements are, we would submit different things to them on a quarterly or semi-regular basis. Usually it's quarterly reporting that we would do for the particular grants, and depending on which one of those we tap first. I say tap first because some of them may expire sooner than others, so we want to spend the ones that expire sooner, faster.
So is that project in the capital plan then?
That one is in
And
the
then
capital improvement.
Back to kind of where, so be cool if those were connected somehow, so you could see those, like, this is $11 million of a needed 20 million, I'm just making stuff up, 20 million, and it's gonna start in 2027, and
That one for sure is in the CIP budget.
but is, yeah, so there's a connection somehow that can be drawn,
Yes.
but
So when you look at the traffic and transportation under that, there is the Caltrain, and it depends, this is Middle Avenue. So Middle Avenue, Caltrain, which one's this?
We have a couple of
We have a couple
so I've run into that
line
problem
items for
with a
that.
couple other documents, like the names don't always match up, so you don't know, it's like.
Yeah, so like we're just gonna pick the Middle Avenue Caltrain crossing study. 7 million is carryover money, 10 million is new money in 26-27. So we're planning 10 million in the future, which that might be part of that 10 million that we planned for the future. We know we're gonna spend that, but we don't know exactly when we're gonna spend it. So
Sure.
the CIP is a plan to say, hey, potentially we're gonna get 10 million next year.
So in that view that you're looking at, are the grants listed there?
The grants are not
I think that's
specifically
your
identified.
question.
Yeah, I'm
Or
just
if
trying to
we
link them together.
They're
yeah.
not easily linked is the short of it.
So maybe that is a transparency kind of, so rather than, going down, just kind of across, like link, so someone's, it's almost like just linking the two documents in some ways.
Yeah, there's
But
not,
how does the city council do that? I mean, my God, it's gotta be like a Rorschach test, right?
When the CIP goes to the city council for prioritization, they receive a lot of detailed information. And it's planning over a 5-year period, so it is a monumental task.
So
every year.
just a simple linkage. Just,
and I know if you go, I think it was February that they did the CIP study session with council. That would be a good meeting to look at to see how they're planned and what grants they are planning to have come in.
Yeah, I remember it was kind of confusing knowing
There-
the grant portions.
Mhm.
Even at that time, it seemed confusing.
Yes.
So the subcommittee has no good task for the subcommittee. Glad you joined.
maybe it's highly transparent, but maybe it's not linked or something.
All right, anything else on this one? Any other questions? All right. I think our last item is just to say that our next regular meeting will be January 15th, 2026. Anything else?
Unless. Every once in a while, we need a special meeting, so we can't promise there's nothing coming, but nothing is anticipated. in
Yes.
November, December.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Nothing anticipated, always a possibility, but
We'll try not to bother you during the holidays.
What kind of thing may require a special meeting? I don't know.
If
The
we
one
had a mere.
item,
Please, no, please. I was gonna say, I forgot to finish.
that's what I was gonna say too. So, generally, it would be our annual comprehensive financial report. We would present that as well as the results of the audit. That would be something we generally have that finished, by the end of December. So then it comes to council in the January meeting, but if we finish it sooner, then, in December, we may call a special meeting and say, hey, let's do this so we can get it to council before, maybe on their last, meeting of the calendar here.
But that
But
would be a heavy
generally-
lift to get it done before,
Yeah.
so it's very unlikely. Don't alter your travel plans for the potential special meeting.
Oh, all right. All right, thank you, everyone. I think with that, we'll adjourn.
thank you.